So this has been a big debate in the Digital Circus fandom for a while, actually, but I've really seen discussion of this idea pick up with the releases of episode 7 and 8, and now with episode 9 on the way, I figured it'd be a good time to cover this topic that I personally find pretty interesting. The trans femme Jax theory slash headcanon has been seeing a lot of popularity as of late, with there actually being much more evidence to support it than you might at first think. But is this what the creator of the series Gooseworks intended? Is this actually where the story is gonna go? I don't fucking know. That's what this video's gonna speculate about. In this video, we're gonna go over all of the evidence to support trans femme Jack's theory, as well as looking at some other viewpoints and interpretations of this character you could also draw from said evidence. Now, really quick, I know this can be a very sensitive and personal subject for some, but just know this video is just being made for fun. Don't take it to heart if I say something that you'll personally disagree with. Jax is just a cartoon character, and there's no reason to get so upset over someone else's opinion of him. Digital Circus fans. Also, I, as someone who identifies as trans femme myself, do have a lot more knowledge and perspective on the topic of trans identities and issues and whatnot than the average person probably does, and especially probably more than the average person who makes Digital Circus theory videos. No offense, guys. So I will be using some of my own personal experiences and knowledge to help support some of my claims in this video, but just know I am trying to be as unbiased as possible. Final thing, I will be using he, him to refer to Jax throughout this entire video, just since that's what's currently canon, and to avoid any potential confusion that using any other set of pronouns might bring. I hope you understand that. Please don't crucify me. Okay, let's get into the thing. Now, this theory in simplest terms essentially states that Jax is a closeted transgender woman, maybe even a pre-transition trans girl who hasn't realized his true identity yet, and that will see him come to terms with himself and become female by the end of the show. The main piece of evidence used to support this theory are just how many times Jax has been associated with more traditionally feminine things, like the iconic maid dress he's got on about 50% of his merchandise. Jax has a very strong reaction to being put in the dress, which this theory states could be some sort of interpretation of being caught or exposed wearing feminine clothing before coming out, which could be something a closeted trans girl could feel very insecure about, and why Jax lashes out so aggressively at Gangle. I've also seen some people point out Jax's mannerisms while wearing it, like how he knows to pull it up from the sides when lunging at Gangle, or how he stands with his legs crossed when he's up to bat, almost like this isn't his first time in an outfit like this. Zubul also says, I figured you'd be into this, while Jax is freaking out, which could be very telling given how Zubul is the only canonically genderqueer character in the entire show, and does struggle with gender dysphoria. There's also episode 8 where Kane puts the whole cast into these sparkly golden leotards during his song, and Jax has a very strong reaction again to this forced feminization. I mean, just look at his stupid little face. People also like to point out Jax's room, which he notoriously doesn't let anyone in, but when we get a glimpse of it in episode 7, we see he has this girly, pink, pretty princess-ass bedroom, and his insistency on keeping it secret from anyone else could be seen as him being secretive about his identity, or him feeling the need to hide these parts of himself for whatever reason. This idea is actually reinforced by one of the many Tumblr Q&As Goose has done, in which one of them, she said that Jax likes a lot of stuff he would never admit to. These Tumblr Q&As actually give us a lot of little random bits of info that people like to use when theory crafting. Some of the other ones that apply to this being one where she said she relates most to Jax out of everyone in the main cast, with Goose herself being a trans woman, and one in which she was asked about the idea of Jax becoming a Tumblr sexy man, to which she claims she believes it will be very funny given what happens later in the show. I also only discovered this while writing this video, but fairly recently on Blue Sky, when someone asked why Jax was so upset by the maid outfit, Gooseworks said he wasn't ready to ask these questions about himself. This may or may not be this theory's smoking gun, I cannot lie. In episode 7, when Zubul is taunting Jax, he says,
Aren't you supposed to be miserable about your ability to choose your own body or something?
which people claim could be Jax expressing some resentment towards Zubul for having an ability he wished he did, wishing he could change his own body in a similar way. I feel like this is a bit of a stretch, but I do think it's interesting how Jax is the only one of the main circus group to ever really acknowledge the transness slash gender fluidity of Zubul's character. Then, when Zubul says that they're actually fine with themselves and not needing to commit to one thing all the time, all Jax says in response is,
"How about that?"
And then, when Zubul says that they still have problems, they talk about them with their friends, Jax says he doesn't have any problems while making that one face he seems to make all the time when he's lying, and wanders off to sulk in his room. I feel like his little "how about that" line is the real big thing here. I'll admit, I've used similar language when in similar situations in my own life, and I feel like when looking at it through this lens, it actually does make a whole lot of sense how you'd come to this conclusion. There's also episode 6 where during his big argument with Pomni, he says,
"I'm just a misunderstood little chicken fetus in an egg that needs to be cracked open."
Now, in the trans community, an egg is a term that refers to a trans person who hasn't realized they're trans yet, and cracking your egg means you finally came out or realized who you truly are. And Jax using such specific wording here could be hinting at something deeper. There's the torture Kane puts Jax through in episode 8. Everyone's torment, hallucinations, or whatever the hell they are intentionally personalized to be as disturbing to each of them as possible. And in Jax's, we see the shadowy figures of Ribbit, Kaufmo, and Pomni peeling off his skin to reveal this weird yellow stick man underneath. These scenes are seemingly representations of each character's greatest fears or traumas, or just whatever seems to have the biggest mental toll on them. And Jax's could be interpreted as his biggest fear, once again, being outed as trans. He's afraid that he'll let his guard down and have his facade peeled away from him to reveal who he truly is on the inside, and that the people he cares about most will mock him for it, which, trust me, pretty relatable fear. Some other smaller things as he used to support this theory are in episode 5 when he states his ears and tails are the pinnacle of masculinity or whatever, to which Pomni immediately points out that Jax doesn't have a tail, as if to reinforce the idea that Jax is not masculine. In episode 4, Jax doesn't write his name on his name tag and simply puts, "I don't care." Being forced to write down or say your dead name as a trans person can be a very dysphoric or upsetting experience. Again, it's something I can relate to. And given how this is just the adventure of the day and not a real job Jax is working technically, it makes sense he wouldn't actually put down his name, despite Jax taking much less effort to write than "I don't care," proper punctuation at all. In episode 6, when looking at the mirror in the bathroom, Jax says,
"God, you look stupid."
Which could again be a sign of his dysphoria, as something as seemingly simple as looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing what stares back at you being something so far from how you desire to appear can be a very hard experience, and again, one I can relate to. But I'm going to stop saying that now because I don't want this video getting too depressing. I've seen people on Twitter point out this shot in episode 7 of Jax in front of the big monitor in Kane's office, which is framed in a similar way to the poster of the movie I Saw the TV Glow, which is a psychological horror film that's a direct trans allegory for repressing or denying who you truly are, and the damages gender dysphoria can have on your psyche. I don't know if this one is intentional, but I mean, hey, it very well could be, considering how much TADC wears its influences on its sleeve.
Don't need to scream if you ain't got a mouth.
There's also some stuff in the merch ads, which I don't believe are canon, but I mean, I'll toss it anyway, because why not? In the ad released after episode 5, which the Made Jax plush is promoted in, Gangle says Jax looks cute in it, to which he replies, "Go to hell." But in his mind, he says,
"Oh no, she's right though."
This is probably just a little joke for a stupid plush toy video with Max fucking Mofo in it, but still, might as well throw it in here. I feel like some of these points might just be the result of confirmation bias, honestly. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some really solid pieces of supporting evidence for this idea, but some of these seem like kinda stretches to me, or just like little jokes people are putting way too much thought into. But I mean, since we already have so much other evidence, I mean, these things, they must also be hinting at this. These things must all also be evidence for it, right? You know? And again, I'm not saying that these things don't serve to support the theory, just there could be a lot of interpretations of what they mean, you know? Now, with all that being said, trans femme is not anywhere near the only interpretation of Jax you can make, and I do want to highlight some other ones, specifically the possibility of trans masculine Jax. This take on the theory believes that Jax is still trans, but instead of being a trans girl who's to come out, he's a trans guy who transitioned at some point before entering the circus. Same evidence all pretty much applies here, just being looked at through a new lens. Jax is incredibly enraged by being forced to wear the maid dress, which could be because he's actually trans masculine, and this is causing him a lot of dysphoria. Perhaps Jax's desire to be seen as masculine and why he's so upset to find his tail gone in episode 5 is because he really wants to have a successful transition and be seen as the man he truly is, yet was unable to be for so much of his life. Zubul does say they've never seen Jax this mad before. I mean that's gotta mean something, right? Maybe Jax's biggest fear might be being outed as a trans guy. He's afraid of not passing as a guy and having everything he worked so hard to become and wanted for so long being torn away from him, and thinks that people will mock him if they knew. We can only speculate what Jax's life was like before the circus, but maybe he grew up in a really transphobic environment and now just expects that behavior from people, which is why he feels the need to protect himself like this. I do honestly really like this idea a lot, actually. Although the main thing I see people use to deny it is the fact that it would be kind of weird for this series made by a trans woman to use a trans man's dysphoria for gags and sell merch of it. And yeah, I get that. It would be a really weird tonal change from like Zubul, whose dysphoria is handled with so much care and respect, and then Jax gets made into plushies and figures and pins and all that. I still wouldn't say I think this fully discredits the idea or headcanon, but yeah, I can admit that would be a little strange. There's also an idea I haven't really seen many other people consider, but it's the idea that Jax isn't trans, he's just a cis male who enjoys traditionally feminine things, but just won't admit to that for whatever reason. You know, so I guess we can call this femboy Jax theory. Jax seems to have a very fragile sense of masculinity, which could be part of the reason why he acts the way he does. He feels the need to be this sort of traditionally masculine man, top of the totem pole and all that in the circus, and wants to protect his masculinity and sees letting others get one up on him as a threat to that, which is why he represses some of his more feminine desires, like all of his emotions and feelings and all that. The reason he was so upset being put in the dress is because he just cannot handle any form of emasculation, even if deep down this is what he might truly desire. Maybe Jax grew up in a very traditionalist household and while not necessarily feeling like a woman, deep down he knows he's not the manliest man around either, nor does he really want to be, but feels like for one reason or another he needs to be, and denying himself for so long has led him to this state of almost manic depression, you could probably call it, that we see him in today. I mean, he does call himself a femboy in the Russian dub of episode 5. I mean, that's gotta mean something. This, although could still be applied to trans femme Jax theory, if anything it might only serve to reinforce it when coming up with all the other stuff, and that's kind of the point. There are many things you can take away from what we see of Jax across the series, because Jax is a complex character, just like how people are very complex creatures, and a lot of the time, different issues can manifest themselves in similar ways depending on the person. I honestly just don't think we really know enough about Jax and his past yet to properly make a final judgment on if he's really trans or not, because there are a lot of ways to interpret the things that we see him say and do. I've seen some people say they interpret Jax as having BPD due to how rapidly he seems to switch his mood during some episodes, but I don't really know enough about that subject to go any further or try to like diagnose Jax or anything, so I won't. But I just wanted to share another way I see this character be interpreted. I will admit though, I came into this not really seeing him as trans femme, but the more I wrote and researched, the more I began to convince myself. So who knows? I mean, at this point, I could genuinely see it happening. Just be respectful of people who disagree with you, though. As long as they aren't being openly transphobic, then please don't go harassing people just for not also seeing Jax Digital Circus as a trans woman. Don't forget that he's just a cartoon character, you know? I'd love to get a discussion going in the comments about this whole thing, respectfully, of course, and hear what all of your thoughts on Jax are. Overall, I think we honestly just need to wait till episode 9 for any actual answers, but until then, I think speculating and psychoanalyzing this stupid fucking rabbit is a lot of fun. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Very different from the borderline shit posts I normally make, but this is just a topic I felt like I could cover, and, you know, hopefully did a good job. And hey, maybe if you guys like this, I'll do more similar videos in the future. Don't expect me to start making any actual theory videos, though. Fuck that. Anyways, I'm bad at outro, so I'm not even gonna try to wrap this up in a clever way. Just bye.